What's up everybody, and welcome to another edition of AGR's Pop Culture Reviews. Now before I start the show today, I just want to personally thank every single veteran, past, present, and future, regardless of how long you served or what branch of service you served in. We owe you a debt of gratitude that this country will never be able to repay back. You deserve more than what we can give, so thank you very much for those of you who made the ultimate sacrifice and those currently in uniform. Now, just occasionally here at AGR's Pop Culture Reviews, the stars really do align to bring us a perfect movie review for the solemn occasion. So let's get right into it because I was really excited about this one. This is my official review of the film Overlord. Let's take a closer look. The term Overlord, of course, is the code name given to the largest military invasion in human history. That being the invasion of Normandy on D-Day, June 6, 1944. Now fortunately, we have the benefit of historical records and hindsight. You have to remember, we weren't exactly sure if this invasion was going to be successful. It's rumored that the Supreme Allied Commander, Dwight D. Eisenhower, actually wrote two speeches, one if the invasion failed, and the other one if it was successful. Thankfully, it was a successful invasion, or we'd all be speaking German right now. And I know what's going to happen, especially in my world of academia. Purists and historians are going to criticize the film for being historically inaccurate. Well, you guys can go screw yourselves for now, because this is a great film. Take it for what it is. It's an alternate timeline. And I have to say, for being an alternate timeline, it's pretty historically accurate, for the most part. Now, one of the real strengths of this film is definitely the tone. It's incredibly atmospheric and really ominous, and it does remind you of a horror film. Now, this is what makes this film brilliant. At the beginning of the film, you don't feel like you're watching a horror film. It feels like a legitimate historical docudrama or documentary, for the most part. Again, it's an alternate timeline. The transition into horror is done very well, and it's not overt or over the top. It doesn't become a caricature of itself. It's done really well. As a standard period piece or World War II film, it really does stand in its own. When the horror finally kicked in, I had to remind myself, oh, that's right, this is a horror film, and that is excellent in terms of the pacing. The other thing that I really liked about this film is that it was disciplined enough to take its time in terms of the dialogue and building the characters. The major issue with most conventional horror films is that they rely too much on jump scares and funny noises in order to scare the audience. They did the reverse here. They allowed the tension to really frighten people, and when those moments came, they were awesome and the tone was perfect. You know, as a historian, I can tell that they really did the research in terms of getting the authenticity of this film right, even though it was set in an alternate timeline, so to speak. The first 20 minutes of this film are incredibly intense. The scenes with the C-47s and dropping off the 101st was incredible. Not since Band of Brothers, the HBO series, have I seen such authenticity in film. The havoc and chaos of being in one of those transport ships under murderous German fire and AA, anti-artillery guns, was intense, and I have to give props to the movie for that. It's also worth mentioning that the cinematography in this film is done so well. It was really impressive. This is a beautiful looking film. Not to mention that there are some scenes that are just one continuous shot, and for what's considered to be a horror film, I really wasn't expecting it, but I'm glad they put it in there. Now, of course, the strength of this film is definitely in the characters. They are pretty impressive. Now, at first I thought it was just going to be a caricature of the common soldiers or certain archetypes, but no, they just spilled that very quickly, and these are actual characters that you care about. They also stood away from common tropes in the horror genre, which I think is really cool. I'm not going to tell you what they are because that would spoil the film for you, but I'm glad that they went this route. Everyone's performance in this film was done really well. I also liked it from a technical aspect. They really got the techniques of the way people would fight in World War II. That was very impressive. Again, it just adds to that authenticity. I felt like they were moving like a unit and that they were actual soldiers. The other thing that was really impressive about this film is the sound. It's pretty incredible, especially when you're hearing it in the theater. I can't wait to get this film at home and see what it sounds like in surround sound. It's gonna be awesome. There is definitely a tempo to this film, a crescendo leading up little by little to the horrors that it's going to reveal as you progress deeper and deeper into the acts of the movie. It actually reminds me of Castle Wolfenstein, which is something that kept going on in the back of my head as I was watching the film. And this is undoubtedly a metaphor for the Second World War and this very dark period in history, as we started to uncover the true horrors and evil of the Second World War and the horrors of the Nazis. Now, this might sound a little bit strange, but I can't emphasize how important this film is, especially now in our current climate, because there's nothing in this film or any other horror film that would even come close to the actual atrocities committed by the Nazis and the Third Reich. Now, as you all know, horror films are like cannon fodder for teenagers. They just absolutely flock to them, and I want as many teenagers in this generation to flock to this movie. I want them to really watch this film this weekend to spark a curiosity about one of the darkest chapters in human history, and then Monday morning go into their classrooms and talk to their history teachers about this film. I want them to get a better understanding of easily one of the greatest crimes in human history, and also celebrate those brave men and women who fought back against fascism and oppression. That way they can understand that there are no subtle nuances when it comes to the Nazis and the Third Reich. And you don't have to listen to jackasses when they say that there were, good people on both sides. And if anybody needs any more proof than that, I encourage you all to visit the cemetery at Calvaire-Saint-Mille in Normandy, France. Alright everybody, so that's my official review on the film Overlord. As always, I thank you for tuning in, and I'll see you on the next AGR's Pop Culture Reviews, and I'm sending out a salute to all the veterans.
Soldiers, sailors, and airmen of the Allied Expeditionary Force, you are about to embark upon the great crusade toward which we have striven these many months. The eyes of the world are upon you. The hopes and prayers of liberty-loving people everywhere march with you. You will bring about the destruction of the German war machine, the elimination of Nazi tyranny over the oppressed peoples of Europe, and security for ourselves in a free world. Your task will not be an easy one. Your enemy is well-trained, well-equipped, and battle-hardened. He will fight savagely. Has turned. The free men of the world are marching together to victory. I have full confidence in your courage, devotion to duty, and skill in battle. We will accept nothing less than full victory.